In the heart of suburban Ohio stood Jefferson High School, a place where social hierarchies were as rigid as the lockers lining its hallways. The school was a self-contained ecosystem, a teenage world of glances, group chats, varsity jackets, and lunchroom politics. At the very top was Blake Carson, star quarterback, homecoming king, and the unofficial ruler of the student body. Blake didn't just own the spotlight, he was the spotlight. With chiseled features, an infectious smile, and a confidence that often crossed into arrogance, Blake's approval was a currency of popularity. His laugh could ignite a whole cafeteria. His disapproval could exile someone to the edges of the social map. Teachers tolerated him because his GPA stayed just high enough, and because he brought in trophies. Students admired him, feared him, or both. He wasn't just popular, he was untouchable. At home, Blake's world was no less polished. His father was a former Jefferson athlete turned local business owner. His mother ran the PDA with an iron clipboard. Expectations were sky high. Excellence in football, charisma in public, and leadership in everything. From a young age, Blake was told he was meant for more. The pressure to be someone exceptional was subtle but ever-present, carved into him like the lines on a football field. But Blake's dominance came with a cost. Beneath the cocky smiles and easy victories was a boy afraid of irrelevance. Each accolade felt fleeting. Each laugh hollow unless it was louder than the last. His home life, despite appearances, wasn't a sanctuary. It was a scoreboard. Miss a pass? Lose a vote? You're slipping. He learned early that vulnerability wasn't allowed. So he wore pride like armor and intimidation like a second skin. Then came Noah Reyes, a quiet transfer student from Seattle. He arrived in the middle of October. No grand entrance, just a new name called out during homeroom and a slip of paper handed to the teacher. Tall, sharp-featured, and always composed, he carried himself with an effortless charm. But underneath that calm exterior was an intellect that shimmered with quiet power. Noah didn't seek attention, but it found him anyway. Girls whispered about his mysterious aura. Guys watched him with both intrigue and caution. Unlike most new students, Noah didn't try to fit in. He didn't orbit the cool crowd or chase lunch table real estate. He observed, listened, and when he spoke, it was with thoughtfulness that made people stop and actually think. A rare feat in high school hallways. He seemed older than he was, not in age, but in presence, like someone who had lived through things most kids hadn't yet imagined. Blake noticed too, but not in a good way. At first, it was just curious glances. But then, the attention Noah received started to bother Blake. He didn't like that someone could just stroll into his kingdom and steal glances without saying a word. Noah wasn't loud. He wasn't showy. And that made him harder to read, and therefore more dangerous. The first real encounter happened during lunch. Blake walked up to Noah's table, flashing a half smile with that signature smirk. Hey, new guy. Seattle send you here to escape the rain or the competition? Noah looked up, his voice calm and even. Just here to learn, make friends, and maybe teach a few things along the way. The cafeteria went silent. Some chuckled quietly. Blake's smirk faltered for the briefest moment, but he laughed it off. Still, something inside him shifted. A challenge had been issued, subtly but unmistakably. A few days later, in Mrs. Peters' American government class, that challenge became open warfare. They were discussing civil liberties during times of national crisis, particularly how governments balance freedom with security. Blake, eager to score points, raised his hand. Let's be real, he said confidently. In times of war or threat, we have to let the government do what's necessary. If that means suspending some rights to keep everyone safe, so be it. Several students nodded in agreement. Mrs. Peters looked toward the back of the room. Noah, care to weigh in? Noah calmly closed his book and looked around. History teaches us that fear is a poor excuse to trade freedom for the illusion of safety, he said. The internment of Japanese Americans during World War II was justified under national security. 60 years later, the U.S. government apologized. The room grew quiet. Security and liberty aren't opposites. They're partners. If one is constantly sacrificed to the other, soon we'll have neither. Even Mrs. Peters was visibly impressed. Strong point, Mr. Reyes. Very well said. Blake's jaw tensed. He tried to push back, mentioning modern terrorism, but Noah followed up a Supreme Court case and current data that completely dismantled Blake's argument. The class wasn't laughing, but their eyes had shifted, and Blake saw it. From that moment, the power dynamic began to shift. Students began gravitating toward Noah. His tutoring sessions became packed. Teachers praised his critical thinking. He helped students with essays, assignments, and even personal struggles, all without asking for recognition. His kindness wasn't performative. It was real, and it began to change the air at Jefferson High. In chemistry class, he explained complex reactions in a way that actually made sense. During lunch, he helped a shy freshman from drama club retrieve her tray when a senior jock knocked it down. Little things, quiet things, but they built up like bricks in a wall. Blake, meanwhile, grew frustrated. Every attempt to trip Noah up only made him look worse. He even tried mocking Noah's clothes once, a soft dig about his secondhand sneakers. But when Noah replied, "I didn't know intelligence required brand approval," the hallway cracked with laughter at Blake's expense. So he decided to push things further. One afternoon, Blake cornered Noah by the lockers. A small crowd began to form. "Come on, Reyes. Let's see if your fists are as sharp as your tongue." Noah didn't flinch. "Violence," he said, "is the refuge of the incompetent. If you want a real battle, meet me on the debate stage." Laughter and cheers erupted. Blake's face flushed red. He stormed off, and the school buzzed with anticipation. The school's annual debate championship arrived a week later. Blake, the reigning senior champion, was set to face Noah, the rising sophomore. The topic? Is popularity a true measure of success? It couldn't have been more ironic. Noah delivered a performance that was part speech, part surgical takedown. He spoke with poise, referencing psychological studies, social dynamics, and even personal stories of students who were overlooked despite being brilliant. He paused at one point to look around the room. "Popularity is performance," he said. "Success is substance. One fades with the crowd. The other stays when the lights go out." Blake, used to winning with confidence and charm, found himself flailing. His arguments felt shallow in comparison. The judges made their decision unanimous. Noah won. And that was when everything started to unravel. In the days following the debate, whispers about Blake's behavior turned into confessions and then receipts. Screenshots began circulating anonymously. Private messages where he insulted classmates. Group chats where he mocked his so-called friends. Airdrop photos of people he had humiliated. The truth spilled out like a flood. His inner circle backed away. Students stopped laughing at his jokes. Teachers began watching him more closely. The king of Jefferson High had lost his crown, not in a fistfight, but in a war of words and truth. Blake didn't show his face for 2 days. Rumors swirled that he might transfer, that his parents were furious, that he was grounded for life. But when he returned, he didn't walk with the swagger he once had. He approached Noah in the library, quietly and alone. "I was wrong about you," Blake said, "about a lot of things." Noah, never smug, simply replied, "It's never too late to change." Blake nodded, and to his credit, he did. He started joining community cleanups, volunteered to mentor underclassmen, and apologized publicly to those he'd hurt. It wasn't instant redemption, but it was real effort. His smile became softer, less performative. His laughter, when it came, wasn't at someone's expense. Slowly, students began to acknowledge him again, not as a king, but as someone trying to rebuild. It wasn't easy. Trust, once broken, takes time to mend. Some weren't ready to forgive, and Blake understood that. But little by little, the chill in the hallways melted. People started greeting him again. He earned nods from teachers, handshakes from former rivals, and even a few hesitant smiles from classmates he once mocked. Redemption didn't come in a wave. It came in ripples. And as for Noah, he never tried to replace Blake. He didn't want a crown. Just change. Real, lasting change. And he got it, because true strength doesn't roar. It reasons. It uplifts. In a world that celebrates loud voices, Sometimes the quiet ones carry the sharpest truth. The ones who refuse to fight with fists, but disarm with wisdom, are the ones who change everything. Because true strength doesn't roar. It reasons. It uplifts. In a world that celebrates loud voices, sometimes the quiet ones carry the sharpest truth. The ones who refuse to fight with fists, but disarm with wisdom, are the ones who change everything. And maybe the most important lesson Jefferson High learned that year wasn't just about bullying or popularity, but about pressure. Because while Blake changed, he also began to speak honestly in counseling sessions about the weight he carried, the pressure from home, the need to be perfect, the fear of letting his parents down. In time, he opened up to his father, who for the first time admitted he never wanted his son to feel like he had to earn love through trophies. Sometimes, the greatest harm isn't done by bullies in hallways, but by unrealistic expectations whispered at dinner tables. Parents, too, have a role in their children's battles and their healing. Pushing for excellence should never come at the cost of a child's peace, because the world will challenge them enough. Let home be the place they can breathe. That's the real victory. The kind that doesn't need a trophy, only understanding love and compassion. If you made it this far, thank you for listening to this story. If it resonated with you, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more powerful stories that dig deeper than the surface. What do you think hurts students more, bullying by peers or pressure from parents? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's start a real conversation.